this episode, I interview Kelsey Grant. She is the team photographer for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Hi, Kels.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Where are you currently?
We are in LA right now playing the Dodgers.
Okay, cool. Did you guys play last night?
Yeah. Yeah, we won. Yeah.
Nice, awesome.
10
We
to 2.
had a 2-hour and 45-minute rain delay.
I saw that. I do not miss those.
Not at all. I mean, it was brutal. So my first question is like, when did we meet? Did we meet when you first were doing LSC stuff or LCC or whatever they call it, live
Yeah.
content for MLB?
Yeah, I think it must have been 2019 when I was there. That was the year that, I was in LCC for that year for the Cardinals. Must have been that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's what I figured. That's what I thought it was. And then how long did you do that before you moved on?
I was just in LCC for like 1 year. I covered, I think, spring training for them a little bit in 2020 before COVID, and then I decided to leave during COVID. I think right before the season started up again. I think I was working with them a little bit still with some like archiving stuff, and I just decided that I wanted to try to find something different.
And
Yeah,
what was your first stop, your next when you moved?
after St. Louis, so I went. Where did I go? So I was in Florida for a couple months for spring training, and then I ended up going back to Virginia, where I was just kind of applying for jobs. That's where I grew up. Was kind of looking for jobs during COVID and stuff, and then that's kind of how I ended up back in Arizona because I was there. I was in Arizona before St. Louis.
Oh, gotcha.
I was an intern for the Diamondbacks for 2 years before that, and then ended up back in Arizona in 21 with the Arizona Coyotes. So
that's right. So you interned with the Diamondbacks, but you ended up doing hockey with the Coyotes. How long were you there with them?
I was there almost 2 years. I started I think it was like ended up being March of 21, and then I left end of 22. Yeah, to start back with the Diamondbacks for the.
That's awesome. And you are the team photographer for the Diamondbacks?
Yes. Yep.
Awesome. Now, which did you like better? Did you like hockey or baseball better?
I loved hockey. I think it's super fun. The pace of the game is obviously really, really exciting, and that's definitely different than baseball. Baseball was my favorite sport growing up. It's always been my favorite sport, so I really like it from that standpoint. It's just fun to be around. I like that baseball is a little bit slower, and there's a lot of extra time to kind of play around with different things and move around, get different angles. Where in hockey, it's so fast all the time. You don't necessarily have quite as much time to experiment with stuff. I was also just infuriated. The photo holes drove me nuts, like not being able to get every angle that you wanted to. I mean, I'm sure with remotes and all of that, you can obviously, fix that a little bit, but it would drive me nuts when something was happening like right next to me and you just can't like get a good shot.
Yeah, I'm really lucky here. We have 8 holes, and when they redid our boards and the seats, I was able to have one of them moved so it's more of a corner, so I really see the whole sheet of ice. And, the guys coming down the line doing the high fives after a goal. But still, it's like especially with the cover now, it's like all we used to do is have a fisheye around our neck and have it right there in the hole when the guys crash the boards on top of you. And I used to love shooting in between the benches, but then they put this little gate where they push the announcers and me back. And so I can't see anything to my left. So that really kind of bothered me. It still bothers me, but at least my hole's a little better now than it was. I guess one of my first questions would be, tell us about your journey into photography. Like, how did you get involved, or how did you decide I would like to pursue this?
Yeah, I think photography I guess I got into in high school. It was mostly because I was in an art class and I was really bad at drawing and painting. And so if I was doing photography stuff, then I didn't have to do the drawing. And so it started practice as a way to not have to draw. But I ended up really liking it. But I really got into sports photography in college. I did a little bit in high school for like my yearbook, but I grew up playing sports, and that was kind of like a big part of my identity, I felt like. And then I got to University of Virginia, and very much not good enough to play there or even on a club team. And so I was really missing sports and trying to find a way to get involved. And I found the school newspaper early on, I think my freshman year, and kind of figured that would be a cool way to get to stay involved in sports and,
Right.
use photography that I kind of had been enjoying in high school, and it worked, it ended up working out. I think the first event they let me shoot, or the first game they let me shoot, was baseball, and I shot, like, the one game, and I was like, "Oh my god, like, this is what I wanna do, this is crazy," because I had never really considered photography or sports photography as, like, a possible career. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but yeah, that one game, I was like, "Oh, this is awesome, this is it."
Yeah, that's kind of the way I fell into. I mean, my first game, I was 18 and I was assisting team photographer, and it was like, whoa, this is like a job.
Yeah.
Like if I'm okay at it or even like good at it, can I do this for a living? And luckily, I mean, I'm really fortunate that my age back then, there were just a lot more avenues than there are now. Just with the way things are now, magazines aren't as prevalent as they used to be. You don't have the trading card companies like you used to have. It just changed so much. I mean, that's the hardest part, I think, is even like newspapers, with people talking how much newspapers are going away. So that makes it hard for people to come in and do that kind of work. So that's the one thing that is really cool. I totally understand the, hey, I'm here, I'm doing this and looking around, and you're like, hey, this is pretty cool. So yeah, I totally get that. Do you have any kind of like preferred style of photography? Is there anything that you feel sets you apart a little bit than other photographers?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, I think, like I was saying with baseball, the nice thing is that you can really move around. I really like to try to find, I don't know if it sets me apart really, but I like to find as many, like, unique different angles as I can. Chase Field especially, we just have 2 inside photo wells. So there's only if you're just shooting from the wells, there's really only so much you can get. So I really like to find, just different ways to shoot, different places to shoot from, different perspectives on things. And I think that's kind of how I approach most games.
Yeah,
But
that I mean, that's the one thing I know looking at your work is that's one of the coolest parts is you just don't sit in one spot. You do move around, especially because you utilize light. I mean, that's the thing that I noticed, and I would be putting up your socials so people can check out your work because that's one of the coolest parts about it is the fact that a lot of photographers might just kind of stay in one spot, or they see some nice light, but it's okay. Do I really want to go over that way and move and use the light? Which you do, so that's really kind of one of the neat things. Are there any? Is baseball now like basically your favorite sport to shoot? Do you miss shooting hockey?
I do. I mean, I love baseball is definitely my favorite. I miss hockey a lot. I wish we still had the Coyotes in Arizona. Um, Hopefully we get a team back someday. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I love any sport. Baseball is definitely the most fun for me, I think. So yeah, it works out well. But
Gotcha. Yeah. I hear a cat scratching in my door, so that's going to be really interesting. I'm waiting for my like wife to come home because then the dog will bark. Even it doesn't matter if it's my wife, it's my stepson, it's me. It's the dog barks, and it's like, hey, you do recognize me, right? I'm the one that has fed you for the last 7 years. Do you have any memorable experiences? Do you have anything that like really stands out in your photographic career?
I mean, it was relatively recent. I mean, my first season as a full time as the team photographer, we went to the World Series. We didn't win, unfortunately, but I mean, that was just such a crazy month for me, like, of figuring out how to be, a team photographer for a World Series team, and how you cover and manage all those photographers, to make sure we're getting everything, making sure, just smaller things like making sure remotes are in the right place, like just having everything positioned. Like that whole run was so fun, and so I mean, it's a blur. I barely remember it. But that was really cool and overwhelming. I think that's probably the biggest thing that I've kind of gone through so far in my career is a World Series. But
Yep. Do you have assistants or interns that help you out?
yeah, right now I have one intern, and then I have 2 contracted assistant photographers. So we have a solid team of, a couple people, which is really helpful because we do a ton of we get a ton of requests every day from just
Right.
various, departments, signage,
Yep.
community stuff. So it's
Right.
I would not be I my first in 23, I didn't have interns. I just had my one Jill Weisletter, our contracted photographer. I don't know if you know her.
Gotcha.
It was just the 2 of us, and we made it work, but it's a lot when we're barely shooting the games sometimes because 'cause we're running
Right.
doing other
Yeah,
stuff.
that's the
Right.
hardest part.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because for a long time it was two of us at the Cardinals, and now basically it's a team of four, and our boss occasionally will shoot. So we have, somebody can go do feature stuff, somebody can go if the marketing department needs something specific, social needs something. It makes it a lot easier. So I totally get that. One thing I did forget to touch on is you helped. Was it before? I think because you were still living here when you did the Sharks playoffs,
Yeah.
and we got that gig going.
Yeah, that was yeah, I think I shot 1 Blues game for you
Right.
first, I wanna say. That was, like, yeah,
Oh,
my
that's
first
right. Yeah.
ever hockey. It was 1 or 2 of those games I shot for you. My first hockey games were playoff games, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that, and then I shot a couple games for the Sharks, which was awesome. So yeah, that was kind of my introduction to hockey, and it did help me. I think it helped me a lot getting the Coyotes job. So I was like, "No, look, I've shot hockey before."
Yeah, look, I've done this before. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
playoffs, yeah.
Um, do you have do you have any tips or techniques that you would share that be like whether it's composition, like we talked about utilizing light, or is it pretty much just, every moment like let me just see what I see, this is a better angle. Do you try to like especially for marketing departments, advertising departments, sometimes they want a certain look. Do you have to deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, our yeah, I think I try to focus on for marketing, especially, like, cleaner backdrop or backgrounds. A lot of times stuff gets cut out anyway, but it also just makes it easier for the designers to cut stuff out if it's clean. So clean backgrounds, composition like that is definitely helpful for them. In terms of just shooting in general, I try to just I would say I look around for anything that I can do to make something look different, whether it's, like, I love shooting through things to frame like, for framing.
Oh yeah.
Any, like, gap I can find in anything, I'm gonna try to shoot through it. So just any kind of yeah, a different angle, lower or higher, shooting through stuff, like, anything that makes something slightly different, I think is kind of what I try to do.
I would say seeing your stuff, I think that's one of the little things that does set you apart out from a lot of other like team photographers. You always have to get the gravy. You always have to get the stuff they need for advertising and marketing. But I do notice right away, and I know some of the other photographers that knew you here in St. Louis will be like, check out this pic. I mean, just because it is between, these shadows and all of a sudden there's a sliver of light and there's an action play or something. So I think that is one of the little things that you do notice that you look for, I should say, which does make it a little more unique, which is really cool, which is really neat. The world of photography is always changing. How do you keep up with techniques, gear, all that kind of stuff? Do you try to stay as current as you can? Do you like, research new gear, new equipment, software, any of that stuff?
Yeah, I try to. I wouldn't say that I'm great about it. I follow a lot of different accounts on social media that kind of, will talk about or will showcase kind of different techniques and stuff or the new I'll follow Sony and like the brands that have new stuff coming out. The nice thing is that the gear that I use is all Diamondback stuff. So when new stuff comes out, if it's in the budget for the year, if we can make it work, like we're able to get new stuff, which is great. I think I don't know that we have the newest, the most, we don't always have we're not always so on top of everything. Um, but having, stuff that will get the job done and, lighting wise, like having the battery powered lights, like that stuff, like all of that kind of newer technology, the remotes, all of that has been really great. It makes it so much easier for, being
Yeah,
flexible.
I will agree with that because when I interviewed my friend Dillup, that's one of the things we talked about is he used to always use mono lights and he had to find power or a generator when he was doing location work. But then now with so many battery powered lights out there, whether it is a big mono light or a smaller speed light, it does make everything so much easier, which really helps a lot. Any particular obstacles that aspiring photographers should watch out for, or do you have any advice for young and upcoming photographers? Because I know I get tons of messages almost weekly, like, "How did you get into this?"
Yeah.
And I want to be a team photographer. And what do you say to these people?
Yeah, I think yeah, the biggest obstacle is, obviously getting the job. There's so many photographers and only so many jobs these days. But I think what I usually tell people is, well, first, be nice and easy to work with. That is huge. I think a lot, it's a small community. So referrals, references, that kind of stuff. Word of mouth is huge. I think a lot of the jobs and freelance jobs I've gotten have come because I was recommended by somebody. So I think just being a good person and being, easy to work with is really important. But in terms of like the technical stuff, being like a good for team photography, especially like a well-rounded photographer is really important. We're not just shooting sports, we're doing product, food photography, headshots, portraits, events, and a lot of those events are in really dark basements of, or like boys and girls club gyms, where there's not a lot of light. So having the technical skills to be able to kind of get a good photo in any situation or environment is really important. So making sure that you have kind of like that good variety and well-rounded portfolio, I think is really helpful.
Yeah, I totally agree. That does help, and being polite, being nice. The one thing that always would get me that I try to tell young people is ask a lot of questions. It's amazing to me when somebody might come to whether it's our hockey arena, whether it's our ballpark for the first time. It's like they just go to a spot and that's it. It's like when I would travel or when I was younger and I was learning, first thing I would do was find the team guy and say recommendations, certain angles, certain things, rules, tell me everything about this ballpark I should know as a photographer that's never been here. And it is amazing how some people don't even think about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Are there any photographers, any specific photographers or artists that have influenced your work?
Yeah, I mean, definitely there's been a lot. I think, Elsa Garrison is a big one. She's just every event that I feel like she shoots, she comes out with like an iconic photo. Uh, so she's amazing. And that's, I've heard her talk about, I mean, it's obviously the skill, but the preparation and planning that goes into, how she shoots every event and everything like that. I think that's definitely influenced how I approach shooting stuff. I think Jean Fruth is another one that with her, the grassroots base, I think she's proof that like you don't have to shoot. I mean, she shoots professional sports, but she's proof you don't have to shoot professional sports to take amazing photos. I love her kind of more like behind the scenes kind of, I mean, the grass baseball of it all, like that kind of element and the way that she shoots everything. And I think also just from a team perspective, when I first realized that this could be a job, I grew up a Red Sox fan, and so Billy Weiss was someone that I followed right away. And I love the way that he covered the team with the behind the scenes, the stuff that he did, and just the way that he moved around the stadium and the different angles he
Right.
got. I think those three were big. I mean, there's so many though. Like you guys, everyone in
Yeah.
St. Louis, like the way just the community that you guys have and like the way that you guys treat everyone, I think has also just had a huge influence on the way that I try to be around people because you guys were just so great. I mean, it's the reason I'm doing this podcast. I do not say listen to
Yes,
you.
again, I really do appreciate it. I mean, yeah, I feel the same way. I know it's such a new thing to do
Yeah,
for me, but no, I really appreciate that because that's one thing. At baseball, I don't have a lot of control, like being part of a team and having a boss. Whereas hockey, it's pretty much me, and then the people that work for me or the other photographers, where it's the same thing. It's like attitude's everything. We do have a really small photo community here in St. Louis, and we almost all of us get along really well. We'll go out and have, a drink or a bite to eat after a game. We had a doubleheader the other day, and so a bunch of us went out to eat between the games together. And I think that does play a big part, and it's a good teaching because we actually had one of the younger photographers who had not ever gone out with us, and I think that for the fact that they see us and they see how we talk amongst each other, how we act around each other, will probably help in that person's growth.
sure. Yeah, I know. Came back when I was with the Coyotes, and I think I came back to St. Louis with the to play the Blues, and you set up like a lunch with everyone to like just
Right.
out, and I was just like shocked by that. I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
It was so nice. Like you guys are awesome.
Yeah, we keep waiting for you to come back to Bush, but
I know. I'll make it back there one day.
oh, that's funny. Basically, like, what advice would you give to somebody who really wants to get into sports photography? Do you have anything that because like I said, I get messages all the time, and I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
So generally, like, what kind of overall advice do you like to give?
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, having like the well-rounded portfolio and being able to, you know, show that you can shoot in any environment is great. Being reliable, I think, is really important. I would rather hire someone that I can trust to be there and take a good photo than someone that's maybe like a little, flaky, but takes a great photo, like, it takes an amazing photo, like, I think I would go with this person that I know will do a good job and is gonna be there every time. So I think that's, reliability is important. But yeah, just having, the good attitude and all of that, like, all of that kinda stuff that plays into working with a team is really important.
I think there's a little flakiness in all of us
Yeah.
sports photographers. So, are there any like, do you ever? I mean, I know you mentioned websites and looking at other people's work on social. I mean, do you ever like watch the YouTube videos? I know you're at a point where you're not really learning, but you might experience somebody doing something a little differently. I know I've assisted photographers after doing this for 42 years. I've assisted friends because I want to see how they work and how they do things. But like, do you ever check out books? I know a couple friends of mine have like a library of photo books. I only have a few that I like to kind of page through now and then. Anything like that?
Yeah, I do a lot more of the studio photography. I'll watch a lot of YouTube videos on different ways to light stuff because that's something that I was never trained really necessarily in studio photography. I've kind of worked on it on my own. When I was an intern, we did it a little bit, but a lot of the stuff that I've done since has been kind of just self-taught and learning on YouTube videos, and so it's not something that I feel like I have like a great grasp on. And so anytime I can try to learn new techniques from that perspective, portraits and that, I definitely watch all kinds of videos on any studio creative stuff that you can do.
Well, I remember in some of your hockey stuff when the players walk in, like you'd play around with some lights and try to use a creative backdrop. And that's one thing we always look at here. And the hard part is if you don't have nice hallways, if you don't, that makes it a little tougher. So then you have to work a little harder. Are there any key lessons or anything that you know now that you wish you knew when you were starting out? I know it's always a tough one.
Yeah. I mean, I think my biggest thing was, like I was saying, with having the well-rounded portfolio, I wish I had focused more on, like, when I was in college, I only wanted to shoot sports, and I was just so focused on getting those key, like, peak action shots. I wish I had spent more time on the stuff that kind of made me uncomfortable, like the studio lighting. I wish I had spent more time making sure I was good at everything, because it would have saved I figured it out, but it would have saved me a lot of stress over the years if I had spent the time, because I had the opportunity in college to do studio shoots, and I just didn't because I was afraid of them. So I wish I had taken the opportunities to kind of work on everything and become that well-rounded photographer
Yeah.
earlier on.
I mean, I know with team photography, sometimes it's easy to get along and have a camaraderie with players. Does that play a big part when you were with the Coyotes and now where you tried to have those relationships because then they feel more comfortable when you're pointing a camera in their face?
Yeah, for sure. I think, yeah, having those relationships help a lot because none of them really want to do photo shoots. None of them are really all that happy to be there. They'd much rather, rightfully so, be, out working on actual the sport they're playing. So having that relationship, and when I can promise them it'll be 2 minutes, it'll be 2 minutes, and they know that I'm gonna do, I'll get them in and out quickly, and it won't be painful, and it does help with just getting their personality out a little bit better. I think, yeah, having those relationships definitely helps in making them a little more, yeah, willing to do it.
Yeah, I know that is a big part, and it's something I kinda miss a little bit because I used to do spring training every year for a long time and then stopped doing that, and I noticed that not getting to know the players in spring training makes a big difference all of a sudden during the season. They come we open up the season, and they don't know who I am, which makes it a little tougher, but also for me, being a little older, it's like, these are kids. I mean, I can't get over, like, how young and you're definitely not old, but I mean, that's the thing. These most of them are a lot
A
younger
lot
probably.
younger, yeah. It's
And yeah, but I like the fact that you mentioned in a shoot that if I'm going to say 2 minutes or so, because I have worked with photographers that like, even if it's a big time photographer, it's a big time story, a cover shot, something, whatever, in my mind would take too long. And you could see that the player's uncomfortable. You see after a while, they're like, come on, let's get this over with. So I was always the same way where it was like, let's get this done as quick as we can. If I think of like, okay, I want to do two different shots, I might have to move my lights, then I'll think of that ahead of time so that boom, I can just change and go and get them out of there. So the fact that you mentioned that, I think it is really huge. Do you have any goals or aspirations? I mean, or you feel like this is what you want to do as long as you can? Is there anything else that you'd like to accomplish?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, being a team photographer was the goal. So it's yeah, it's great that I'm here. I don't know exactly where I want to go from here. Still trying to figure that out. I would say, I mean, I would love to shoot, a World Cup, an Olympics, like anything, like any of those big things would be awesome. So that's probably on the bucket list at some point. But I do really love the team photographer side of things. I love the access, the behind the scenes stuff that you can get. So I'm very happy where I am right now and just, trying to figure out what's next. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of team photographers that stay with the team for a long, long time. So, I mean, I could definitely see that if you're comfortable and you get along with the players, and especially like management, and
Mhm.
upper management, that makes it a lot easier too. I know with the Blues, that's one thing that I feel, and this goes back to what you were saying about advice to young photographers, is personality and being able to talk with anybody, whether it's a president, vice president, owner, lower level employee. I feel that in my work with the Blues, that really it helps me a lot because I'll even get teased by somebody in upper management, joking around about something, whether it be like my hair's getting long or who knows what, and I got a new tattoo, that kind of stuff. But I do know that that definitely helps in the work because then they're just so much more comfortable with you when you have to do something, with them, whether it be a private shoot like in their office or travel with them, and that definitely helps. So, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up too earlier because that's really important.
Yeah, for sure.
I really can't think of any other questions off the top of my head and what I have written down because I know that this is like the most comfortable thing you wanted to do on a Saturday morning when you're on the road. So, but again, I really do appreciate it. I'm learning too. This is what I think is fun. And I think that when I was doing the first one with my buddy Dillip, I think it was the kind of banter and the laughing and just the back and forth makes it so much easier. And that's why I thought this could be kind of cool, because it's like these are friends. These aren't, I'm not just going and saying, "Oh, this would be an important person to interview." That's going to help me get more, likes and
Yeah,
comments and stuff. But no, it's more about like we are a small community, and we always try to make friends with other team photographers, with other local photographers. So I thought this would be kind of fun. And again, appreciate your time. And what do you have, a day game or a night game? I'm assuming a night game.
night game. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you'd be at the ballpark right now.
Yep.
Probably, yeah. Anything else you can think of? Any words of encouragement, words of advice for youngsters, or anything that we might not have touched on that you thought you might be talking about?
Gosh. Yeah, I know. Geez, yeah, no, I can't. I'm other than yeah, just be nice. That's yeah, like I think that's the biggest. Yeah, being easy to work with is huge, and mastering the technical skills. I think if you have those two, like you are set up for success more than not. But yeah, I
Awesome.
feel weird to do, but I don't even feel like I'm in a position to do
No,
that. I know
it's
I know, photographer and all that, but still feels weird.
right. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, pretty soon you might have to be asked to lecture in front of students and all that. And I believe me, I know what that's like. I appreciate it again, like I said, and go D-backs, especially playing the dynasty,
Yeah,
go beat them.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, thanks again. I hope you have a great day or weekend. And again, and hopefully see you soon. Hopefully talk to you soon. And again, for everybody listening, I'm definitely going to put your socials on there so that people can look you up and take a look at your awesome work.
Sounds good. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Kels. Take care. Have a good one.
You too.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.